Let's talk about how I barely touch my Airbnb messages and still get 5-star reviews. The secret is automated messages done right, and I'm going to show you the exact sequences that I use to eliminate 90% of all guest communication. Let's talk about why automating your guest communication is a non-negotiable if you want to scale or even just stay sane. Most hosts don't get burned out from guests being rude or difficult. They get burned out by answering the same question over and over and over again. What time is check-in? What's the Wi-Fi code? Can I bring a dog? And the truth is, all of this is avoidable. When you have the right systems in place, you're not going to be stuck on the phone 24/7. And you can focus on the things that actually matter to your cash flow as well as growing your portfolio. And here's the kicker. When your messaging is dialed in, your guests feel taken care of before they even have to ask. And that's how you start getting 5-star reviews consistently. All right, so let's jump in and take a look at what these messages look like. And each one of these is very intentional. And I've spent years refining these, literally since I started with Airbnb. I've constantly gone back and changed these, maybe on a monthly basis to continue to make them better, to avoid guest communication and provide a top-notch experience. So the first one here is going to be a booking confirmation. And you can see here, thanks so much for booking with us. We look forward to welcoming you to Phoenix. You will receive all of your check-in information 2 days prior to arrival. So this message is going to go out as soon as they book one of my properties. And the first thing that I'm putting in here, or the first, intentional piece, is going to be you will receive your check-in info 2 days prior to arrival. I installed this in here because I was getting questions saying, hey, when will I get my check-in code? When will we get access to the property? When will we get the address? If they book 3 months in advance, I might start to get those messages a week early. But, if they're booking and they go to the conversation, they're going to see and be rest assured that everything will be provided 48 hours prior to check-in. Next year, I do use Truvy, which is the old Superhog. It's an additional verification and security deposit. So you can see here, as stated in our listing, you will be asked to complete the verification. I put this in here because, I was getting a couple questions here and there on, hey, what are these other text messages or emails that I'm getting about a security deposit? This immediately is, referencing them back to the listing description, whether they read it or not, telling them that they do need to complete this in order to receive their check-in instructions. All right, in the meantime, please confirm the total number of guests in your party. I put this in here because I do host some larger properties, and Airbnb currently maxes you out at 16 guests when someone is booking. And if you have a group bigger than 16, they need to add those guests after the reservation. So I want to make sure that I'm collecting all of the extra person fees for each reservation. So I'm confirming the total number of guests, and I want them to reply back to that. That's the last question I ask with this booking confirmation. And I want them to reply saying, oh no, we actually have 20 people. I just couldn't add those, additional 4. Well, then boom, I could send them that change request and collect that extra person fee. I found that without doing this, I was having groups of 20, 25 stay in my properties when they only paid for 16. And then this is another little hack actually here. Same thing with pets. People would not disclose that they are bringing pets. Now, there is no pet count variable here that we can install in Airbnb. So what I did by default is I'm just saying, please confirm you have 0 pets visiting our home. And most of the time people aren't bringing pets, but when they do, a lot of times they're not disclosing that up front. So, I'll get responses to this message saying, oh no, I'm so sorry. I meant to add 1 dog. Okay, well then that's going to be, $300, $350 worth of a pet fee that I can now send that change request, and I'm not missing out on those. I was noticing a lot of people checking into my places with animals, and they were undisclosed. And then occasionally someone will book with a pet, and this is always going to say 0. I wish Airbnb would have that pet count so I could have it right if they already put 1 pet or 2 pets. But this is very rare that someone will book with a pet and actually disclose it. So in this case here, if I get a response, saying, no, I thought I booked for 1 pet, let me double check. I'll say, you know what, that's my fault. You did book with a pet and you're all set. So right there, this is the booking confirmation, and this is going out right when they book our place. Okay, next here is going to be check-in message. This is going to be sent 48 hours prior to arrival. So, hey, first name, your check-in date is getting closer, and I'm excited for your arrival. Here's the address. Your check-in time is this day and this time. Your checkout time is this day and this time. This is the first intentional part of this message. And, this way you're not going to constantly be getting, people saying what time is check-in, what time is checkout, or, arriving at your property early or staying late saying they didn't know. I mentioned this a couple times, especially their checkout time in these messages. So this here is intentional on, the check-in and checkout times. As promised here, your instructions for a smooth check-in. They're going to get their door code, which is automated through Airbnb. I don't touch this. They're going to get their Wi-Fi information. They're going to get parking. This here is primarily putting in to avoid issues with neighbors. In my parking instructions, in each property for these variables, I am putting how many off-street parking spaces we have. I am also telling them that they cannot park on the street. And I do this even if my cities allow street parking to just avoid issues with the neighbors. Neighbors, the three primary concerns I've run into with neighbors is parking, trash, and noise. And you'll see here in all of these messages, I do address those things to be proactive about it. This is also going to avoid questions on, hey, where do I park? How do I get to the parking pad? A lot of my urban properties have alleyways, so I do provide descriptions and that they need to pull around to the house and park in front of the garage or the fence and access through the backyard. All right, third message here is a mid-stay check-in, and I send this 4 hours after arrival. And you can see here, I hope you've settled in all right and that you're enjoying your stay. Please let me know if there's anything you need or I can assist you in any way. This here, I'm being intentional about if they do have any issues or concerns on their mind, I want to know about that right now. Number one, so I can address it and provide them a good experience and hopefully still, get that 5-star review if they do have any issues. But then number two, just on like a maintenance, related thing, you'd be surprised at how many people will just make comments and kind of let things with the home that you might have not been made aware of otherwise. I manage remotely as well. So if you're thinking about investing in a different city, this can be a good way to kind of collect little maintenance items, about your house. And then what I'll do is I'll schedule a maintenance guy to go over if I have a weekday vacancy that's a low rate. I'll just block it off. I'll kind of make a running tab or list of things that guests have mentioned or commented on. And then I'll send a maintenance guy over once a month to just knock them all out. All right. And then next year, this is huge. This is probably one of the most important things on these automated messages is the quiet hours. So you could see here 4 hours after arrival, which is always 4 p.m. So this message goes out at 8 p.m. saying, just a reminder, quiet hours are from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Due to local laws, we can't have any noise coming from the property during these times. This includes the backyard. Please keep this in mind at night. So again, being very intentional about letting them know, hey, we can have no noise coming from our house after 10 p.m. And yes, this does include the backyard where we've got hot tubs and pools and putt-putt and all kinds of games. And, the highest quality people are going to respond to this, saying, hey, we're a quiet group. No worries. We got this, in mind. And then, people who, can still be good guests, but might have some questions on this, they might reply back saying, can we still use the hot tub? Can we still use the fire pit? And in that case, I'll just reply back saying, yes, but, no noise means no noise. If you're going to be hanging out there, make sure that the neighbors, are respected. This here is huge, especially as we go into summertime and, people start to enjoy the warmer weather. Okay, next year, checkout instructions. So these are going to go out 24 hours before checkout. So they will get these the morning of the day before they check out. And you can see here, I hope you've enjoyed your stay. Checkout is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Again, this is to help avoid people, still in the house as your cleaners arrive thinking it was 11 or noon. Our cleaners will arrive then to start preparing for our next guests. I kind of threw this in here because, if I just put the time in the automated message, I would find that guests would ask if this is negotiable. I'm going to tell them that our cleaners are already set to arrive at 10 a.m. because we've got new guests they're preparing for, which is going to kind of shut down the messages of the late checkout, which is a pain in and of itself. Even if I could honor a late checkout, I'm basically going to be forcing my cleaners to modify their schedule. And you do that enough times, you're going to piss them off and end up burning them out. So I really do not like late checkouts. As for checkout instructions, we only ask two simple things. So number one is just placing your trash in the outside bins. And this is key. Unless they're full, if they are, leave the bags on the porch and my cleaners will take care of it. This is huge here because number one, in these urban areas, we've got the smaller trash cans. And again, I host some large groups. It is not uncommon for our trash cans to be full, even though I've ordered 2 or 3 extras from the city. So I do this because if they are full, the guests are going to be messaging me asking what to do. This is going to be proactive about that and just tell them. But number two is I don't want my guests to just place that trash outside in the alleyway. There's rats and raccoons that'll tear it up, or my neighbors will be driving home from work and see that there's trash piled up. Both of those are bad things. I'd rather them just leave it on the porch and then my cleaners know that they need to haul it off site. So that there is super important. And then the second thing in here is return any furniture inside or out to its original spot if it was moved. This one here might surprise you, but two of my cleaning crews, I'm in 3 cities. Two of my cleaning crews are, I would say, like on the older side. And, if chairs or couches or grills have been moved, which I don't like in the first place, but it's not super uncommon, they have trouble moving it back to its original spot. So, most people ask them to start the dishwasher or start a load of sheets. But in my experience, the guests have done a net negative by doing that because, my cleaners have a pretty solid process for washing the sheets. They group all the king sheets and the queen sheets and the twin sheets together. So if I ask my guests to, start the laundry, who knows, what that's going to look like for my cleaners when they get there. I would rather them take care of the trash, move the furniture, and not do anything else. And then that way my cleaners can go in and be as efficient as possible. All right. And then just let me know if you have any questions. Safe travels. All right. Message number 5 is going to be review reminder number 1. And what this is here is we're basically asking for a review without asking for it. So we say, hey, thanks for being a great guest. I just left you a 5-star review. If you are ever back in town, please reach out and I will send you a special offer. So basically we're telling them that we left them a 5-star review. So in return, we're kind of prompting them to do the same for us. And the reason I send this out 2 hours after checkout is because sometimes guests are contemplating, should I leave a 4-star or a 5-star? And if the guest is going to leave you a review pretty quickly, I want them to see this message to hopefully prompt a 5-star review. Another thing too is if the guest, is new to Airbnb and they're not really planning on leaving a review or they don't think it's a big deal, again, me telling them I left them a 5-star review will hopefully prompt them to take the extra steps to review me as well. All right. And then the last message here is I call it review reminder number 2. This is going to go out 2 days after checkout. And it's going to say, hey, we're sorry for asking you this again, but 5-star reviews are very important. If you think we earned a 5-star review, this is just one last reminder to leave us a review if you enjoyed your stay. Let us know next time you're in. We'd be happy to host you again. So again, this is really the first time I'm asking for it, but really the second time because of this message here. But then I creatively phrase in here, if you think we earned a 5-star review, we would love for you to leave us one. So, hopefully this will weed out anybody who's thinking on leaving less than 5 stars, or even if they don't leave a review, it might prompt, a couple comments or feedback. And then, they might not leave one since it wasn't a 5-star stay. They still do leave reviews. I get reviews that are less than 5 stars, but, this combination here, I do really think contributes to more 5 stars when maybe, I shouldn't have, because something got messed up or there was a problem with the house. All right. So those are the primary 6 guest communication pieces that I use. And I truly believe that this helps avoid 90% of all communication and provides a really good guest experience where I'm proactive about just about everything that I could be. All right. So how did I build these? So just real quick, what I started off by doing is just brain dumping into ChatGPT saying, hey, I've got a booking confirmation. This is the primary information that I need to relay. Prepare me a good message that I can use and standardize. And then if it was too long, I would just tell it to refine it and be friendly and direct. And then what I would do is once I've got those messages, and this is something that I've literally tweaked over years, but I will implement them through, my property management software. Or if you're just on Airbnb, you can embed these directly into Airbnb. And at the end of the day, like I said, I truly do believe that these help avoid 90% of all communication. If you want this copy of my exact Airbnb automations, I'm going to put the Google Doc in the description. It's completely free. Just go ahead and click on that link. You're welcome to just copy and paste these and embed them right into your Airbnb listing. And if you're looking for help automating the rest of your Airbnb systems to scale faster, or if you're looking for help finding your first Airbnb deal, I'd invite you to book a free deal planning call below, and we'll walk you through how we're supporting new investors and finding them high quality deals to kick off their Airbnb journey. So just click on that link below and book a free deal planning call, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.